Are we connected, ma'am? Yes, we are connected, right? Okay.
I
So,
I somebody has raised a hand. Rimni Chakravarti.
okay. So we are very elated to hear the words of wisdom from our next keynote speaker, Dr. Deepti Gupta, Professor, Department of English and Cultural Studies, Punjab University, Chandigarh, India. And it is indeed an honor to introduce her before the August gathering. Dr. Gupta has 36 years of teaching experience. She had guided 24 MPhil and 29 PhD students. She has also published papers in national and international journals of great repute. She has 4 books to her credit, and she is also the editor of Academic Canvas, International Journal of English Studies. Over to you, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to see such an august gathering and people from all corners of practically the globe. The earlier session was an eye-opener indeed. Thank you, Dr. Rajesh Kumar, for your wonderful description of language and telling us about the way IIT Madras is leading the pack where language learning and acquisition research is concerned. I noticed that you mentioned that digital humanities is not your field, but sir, whatever you said is definitely related to digital humanities and the kind of research you are doing. You see, digital humanities is a way of making that research easier because it's a new way of doing scholarship that involves collaborative, transdisciplinary, and computationally engaged research, teaching, and publishing. I'll repeat for everyone's benefit. New ways of doing scholarship that involve collaborative, transdisciplinary, and computationally engaged research, teaching, and publishing. So you see, digital humanities brings digital tools and methods to the study of the humanities with the recognition that the printed word is no longer the main medium for knowledge production and distribution. Meaning, the way I did my research, going around to all the libraries I could manage, spending days among dusty stacks of books, that seems to be obsolete now. You can sit with your computer, you can sit with your tablet or even your phone for that matter, and conduct all the research in the world. And the beauty of digital humanities is that it is constantly being formulated. The field is constantly growing and changing. I'd like to refer you to 2 volumes on the field, Debates in the Digital Humanities #1 and Debates in the Digital Humanities #2. Now, these 2 volumes give you a more than adequate definition of what is today called the big tent. You know, digital humanities is often referred to as the big tent because it is not just digital archives. It is not just quantitative analysis. It is not just tool building projects. It is a very wide range of methods and practices, visualizations of large image sets, 3D modeling of historical artifacts, born digital dissertations, even hashtag activism for that matter, and the analysis of alternate reality games. So you can understand why we call it the big tent. And the beauty is that it developed out of humanities computing, but it very quickly got associated with fields such as social computing, humanistic computing, media studies, collections of primary sources, the data mining of large cultural data sets, topic modeling, born digital materials, and it put together under one roof, in one big tent, disciplines such as rhetoric, history, philosophy, linguistics, literature, art, archaeology, music, cultural studies, social sciences, using the tools of computing such as hypertext, hypermedia, data visualization, information retrieval, data mining, statistics, text mining, digital mapping, digital publishing, game studies, information science, cultural analytics. In fact, every disciplinary field has the potential of exploiting the digital humanities. In fact, what Dr. Kumar was referring to when he said that Google cannot answer the question of how many speakers are there for which language. But digitally, we can collect this information. How? We could have a nodal collector in every region, or a nodal collector in every college or university. And that nodal collector could gather this information for us. And in the most painless way possible. We all know how painful research can be. I agree with Dr. Kumar that India has the biggest spectrum of English users today. We don't realize it. We have a tremendous potential for research in language learning and acquisition. And while earlier we were looking westward for methodology, in this post-methods era, the West is looking towards us, friends. And our sheer laziness in documentation is what prevents us from being the leaders of the pack. I would take this opportunity to make a plea to this august audience. Whatever innovation or experimentation you're doing in the classroom, let it be documented. Let it go out as a piece of action research. You have digital humanities on your side now. If you want, find collaborators, find partners in research, publish, whatever you do. Share it with others so that the world knows that with this huge set of data, with so many varieties of English users, we are the primary place for research in language learning and teaching. And Dr. Rajesh Kumar, when we talk about mentalism and behaviorism, mentalism, where a user creates sentences and structures, transforms and generates, and on the other hand, behaviorism, which equals imitation and habit formation. Both of these together create interactionism, or the interactive approach to language teaching and learning. And I agree with you. The full range of varieties of English today is mind-boggling, which is why we say world Englishes and not world English today. Within our country itself, you will find so many varieties of English. And the answer to the question, how to harness all these varieties? Well, my friends, digital humanities. Let me give you an example. We say that digital humanities is collaborative, it's transdisciplinary, and it's computationally engaged research. All right. Now, for example, after the pandemic, if someone wishes to do a study on online teaching, I have the research question. Is online teaching effective in a post-pandemic world? If I were to do it the traditional way, I would send out a questionnaire to all my colleagues, or maybe people in my state through all my contacts. I would get answers from them. I would perhaps involve a few students and research scholars and try to get a greater variety of answers from them too. That would be a study focused on, say, my region or my country. But if I want a more wide-ranging set of responses, if I want an answer that is globally relevant, I will check out a few universities across the globe. I will see which universities had a huge user base for online teaching during the pandemic. And via digital humanities, I will create a platform and a group where all these universities can post their data. Thanks to the digital intervention, I can quickly analyze that data and come out with results. So my study, which was district specific, society specific, or even country specific, becomes a study of the whole world. As a result, I can even rope in more researchers from across the world, and we could all publish together. That, friends, is the strength of digital humanities. The second transdisciplinary aspect. Now, you could ask another research question. In online teaching, does one shoe fit all? Meaning, when you are teaching online, would you be using the same kind of effects and facilities for teaching a language as you would teach for teaching, say, science or a social science? Again, for this, your task becomes easier because you can rope in teachers from so many subjects without actually meeting them. As per subject, you could ask this question to so many others and arrive at a baseline. These are the things that work in online teaching in every subject. While these are the things that are country specific or society specific. These are the effects or the facilities of online teaching that this subject uses more. These are the facilities that another subject uses less. So you have a beautiful comparative study of methodology without raising a finger, without any physical travel. The third aspect, computationally engaged research. Friends, earlier too, we had computational linguistics. Linguistics, where we use the computer and computer programs. You are all aware of Professor G.N. Devi, who has created a glossary for each language of India and who is responsible for the Linguistic Survey of India. Now, his team used computer programs to a very large extent in order to create a list of concordance. Concordance is when you are looking for a particular word and you sift through the internet, the digital use of language. So when you're doing computationally engaged research, the digital field can give you your data, but the analysis comes from you. So in a sense, you are combining, you are putting your head together with the computer to come up with a wider and more relevant research base for more societies of the world. For instance, for computationally engaged research in digital humanities, if has online teaching added new words or neologisms to the lexicon? And you could run word frequency pattern concordance based on questionnaires for users. You could ask each user to come up with, say, 2 words that you've learned during the pandemic when you were teaching and learning online. And you could run those words through a concordance program to see what is their frequency. Did these neologisms become words? Because a neologism becomes a word only after it has been used for a fixed number of times. Only then does a dictionary accept it as a word. So this becomes a very interesting study where you are able to predict how many of these words remained neologisms, how many entered the dictionary. And this could be run for any discipline. The beauty of digital humanities is that for digital humanities, every discipline is treated equally. There is no bias or there is no prejudice. So what humanities has been battling for so long, the whole paradigm of giving more funds to sciences, giving more attention to sciences, finally it has a platform where everyone is equal. Interestingly enough, the history of digital humanities comes from the field of humanities computing, which originated in the 1940s and 50s. And it was in the early 1950s that an English professor by the name of Josephine Miles, in collaboration with IBM, created a computer-generated concordance program for the writings of Thomas Aquinas. It was from there that this whole idea of digital humanities took off, actually. And later on, there were many standardized protocols, such as the Text Encoding Initiative, and then extensible markup language that came up. When you are looking for an author on the World Wide Web, or you are looking for a concept, many times you come across archives that contain everything that you need to know about that concept and author. These archives are very common and highly popular for Western authors. Our Indian language literatures also need to wake up to digital humanities and try and create archives for Indian authors, for writers who write in the Indian languages. Maybe after this conference, we will see people inspired enough to take up the literature of their language and work on creating archives. In fact, the change in terminology from humanities computing to digital humanities was made official in a companion to digital humanities, which was published by Siemens and Schreibman in 2004. And in that companion to digital humanities, the authors made very clear the idea that the field is not just mere digitization, but it is an overlap between so many fields, and also it is using digital technology to study traditional humanities subjects. In fact, this has been termed as the digital turn, just as you have the linguistic turn with Saussure. Similarly, This has been termed as the digital turn, which came in the early 21st century. And there are so many centers all over the world devoted to digital humanities. So far, we don't have enough centers in India. Perhaps conferences like this one will be responsible for establishing some centers. So the idea of digital humanities is to use computational methods either to answer existing research questions, as I demonstrated to you in the case of IIT Madras, or to challenge existing theoretical paradigms, generating new questions and to pioneer new approaches. Now, digital humanities is also involved in the creation of software, because the purpose is to provide environments, tools for producing, curating, interacting with knowledge that is born digital and lives in various digital contexts. You see, curation is a very important part of digital humanities. If you are able to look for materials and you are able to preserve them, conserve them, and then present them in a shareable form in the digital arena. In fact, the National Library of Archives of India has managed to create a traditional library of the traditional documents of Indian medicine that were under threat by weather, by passage of time. So they've managed to digitize all these traditional materials and they have managed to put it in one archive. They've managed to put them all in one archive where they are safe and where anyone and everyone can access them. So friends, with digital humanities, research is not just about a research question. Research could be about preserving a culture. Research could be about putting together traditional materials. It could be about preserving heritage. A very large area of digital humanities is devoted to the 3D or 4D version of heritage and historical sites. How to save them, how to use retrieval tools in order to save these sites from further deterioration or from damage. So this field is also open to creating archives. Now, the question that Dr. Rajesh raised, that so many of our languages do not have published material. You could work on the languages of your area, save them, create an archive for them, in fact, create audio files for them. One of my research scholars is working on this area. There are so many religious practices in Himachal Pradesh. For instance, the movement of the Devtas, the gods, at a given time, the gods, it is said that the gods in Kullu give the order that I want to move from this temple to that temple, and they are taken. Now, all these practices are not archived in any written archive. So this scholar is working on preserving the whole team's details, preserving the details of the tradition and the movement. It's just an idea. You people could work on it, this August gathering of ladies and gentlemen interested in studying. Now, digital humanities has also run into a little bit of criticism. The first criticism is that even though there is a lot of cultural analytics, there has not been enough attention paid to race, class, gender, sexuality. Perhaps you people could remedy that. And number two, there has not been enough exploration of humanist work in terms of microanalysis and macroanalysis. And the third challenge that has come up with, that has been seen recently, is that digital humanities is not giving enough attention to the area of pedagogy. How can we teach digital humanities? What kind of methodology would work? So far, very few Indian universities have taken up the challenge of introducing this subject in their curriculum. And naturally, when something is not in the curriculum, the challenge of pedagogy is left unanswered. So perhaps we can all get together and work on this challenge of creating a pedagogy, a pedagogical structure for digital humanities. I'll stop here. So within the framework of 30 minutes, I can deal with your questions. Please go ahead if you have any questions. Can they unmute themselves and speak up, sir? Or would people be typing in the text box?
Yes, ma'am. We will do one thing. We can take the questions later on if they can chat it in the chat box.
Sure.
And due to paucity of time, ma'am.
Okay.
So we thank you. Yeah.
I will add my email to the chat box if anybody wants to contact me. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, ma'am. We really appreciate your professionalism, and thank you for the points that you have made today in this forum. And I think the August gathering will be highly benefited out of your deliberation. Thank you once again, ma'am.
Thank you. Thanks you for your patient listening.
We would like to invite now Dr. Sudhir Narayan Singh, sir. If we are connected to you.